All right, guys. So as previously stated, the Sean Ryan show, part two of probably like 6 or 7, just because, like I said, this is a 6.5 hour. Might help if I talked into this. This is a 6.5 hour long episode, but every minute of it's interesting. Just from my initial perspective when I first watched it, he does kind of stray off a lot, and you could tell Sean Ryan tries to keep him on track. But then, as he continues to go on, it becomes more and more relevant how smart this dude is, how much he was involved in, even projects to this day that are classified that he still can't talk about. He just kind of lets his mind wander, but it's all a setup to a conclusion of what made him do what he did. Again, this dude was a Navy SEAL chief, and to have a Navy SEAL chief all of a sudden come out nationally as a transgender, and he said it himself, this is not my opinion, this is not me going against, you know, the culture that's so quick to want to cancel everybody for their opinions, but he said it himself, I never was a woman. No matter what I did, no matter the hormones I took, no matter the breast implants I got, I never was a woman. I was never going to be a woman. And when he kind of realized that and got out of that phase, remember, this guy, and just like a lot of them, have experienced a lot of TBI, traumatic brain injuries. And so, did that play a part in it? Yes. Did his childhood play a part in it? Yes. Did other factors, as far as family life, play into it? Yes. Wanting to escape who he was and projecting a better life by watching his older sister, which has already been established, and that's not a giveaway. So, a lot of factors came into play with him doing what he did, but that's not all he did. So, you know, I would suggest, like I always tell people, you could watch my reaction and you could watch my review and you could watch my excuse me, my input and what I might say, and go to that'll be great. If not, go directly to the source because I'll leave all his links in the description as well. He is, the guy has obviously built something great. He has a rapport with a lot of these high individuals since he himself was a Navy SEAL and a CIA contractor. And heck, if I had, that kind of reach, being, if I were ever a Navy SEAL or something, it's quite different from what I used to do being in the music industry because a lot of these guys want money to come on, and I ain't willing to pay somebody thousands of dollars just for a half an hour, 45-minute interview when relevancy has kind of died down. But it would still be nice to talk to them like people who were people that I considered friends at the time, and things that I might work on a little bit more harder in the future. But until that time comes, until I grow this page even more, to offer that kind of thing. I feel things like this are very relevant for especially what we're going through in society right now. So, hope you guys enjoyed this second part. And yeah, hang on to every word because, man, what this guy has to say is really, really something special. So, I'm going to shrink this up because last time I left my big ass mug in the way, wasn't doing anybody any good. So, here we go.
Did you ever have any identity crises with gender growing up?
Yeah, I mean, it was still, that's the problem. And I think that this whole thing is, it's
Because
not,
this wasn't even an option back in the 70s.
No, it wasn't.
It was unheard of until, or what, mid 2000s?
but here's,
So there wasn't any, you couldn't, there was no parents pushing this on their children at that time
no.
like there are today. There was none of that. So
I don't want to interject my opinion so early on in this. So let me just say, I had mentioned this girl's name a couple of times, and it's kind of a really sad story because even this is brought up during this episode, but Chloe Grace, what is it, Mortz? She is a young actress, very beautiful girl, and she at one point decided to go transgender. And her parents not only were on board, but almost essentially pushed her to it. And this is who I'm talking about. Now, she came out later on and said that she was way too young to have ever made a decision like that for herself and just wasn't guided correctly. And she said something profound that stuck with a lot of people, is that she realized that now when she has children, she'll never be able to breastfeed her children because she was so young, so impressionable, and she had no one telling her, double think this isn't a good idea. No, her parents were pushing her along because this was the in crowd, this was the wave, this was, oh my God, you're so brave, like you hear every transgender person get. They get love bombed, and all of a sudden they just feel like they're so accepted, so special, but whenever they change their mind, their whole community just rips on them. And Chris Beck here, he says that he was part of that community for a short time, even though he really wasn't, but he was accepted. And then when he changed his mind, he said it was just nothing but hate. So the love he was looking for, he got. But when he decided no, I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Chasing Amy. I would suggest watching it. It's a great movie. I don't want to give anything away. It's an older movie with Ben Affleck and Joey Adams. She was always real beautiful, real talent. She's kind of fallen off over the years, but it has something to the effect that when she kind of became straight, all of a sudden all her, gay friends were like, oh, another one bites the dust. So that's what, Chris said he went through. That's what Chloe, this young actress went through. And it's kind of sad that, you would think you would be accepted for you, but unless you're not pushing the agenda, it's like, oh, well, fuck you. You're on your own. So I just wanted to put that out there.
It wasn't even an option. It wasn't even an idea that could be in a human's head.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'm curious. Did you have any of that identity
And
crisis?
especially for me, because there's no internet, no books, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And how would I even think of that? Well, the reason I thought about it, or the reason I even started doing anything like that, was like real young. So this would be like second grade, third grade, like young. I was, how I was growing up was pretty harsh, right? I had an older sister. And my older sister, because of how they treated her, because she was firstborn, she had everything. It was like, she was definitely taken care of, And it was always inside, and always just like sitting there taking care of herself, doing her nails or doing whatever. And then me, I was like carrying 5-gallon buckets of water up the hill to the 40 acres up on top to feed the animals. So I was going back and forth doing that, slopping out the pigs, cleaning everything, always working, always outside with shit all over me. And she was always inside just taking care of herself and being taken care of and pampered and nice. And then anything happened and I get beat, and then she was still being taken care of and nice. And so I was look at her and I just wanted to be her because I didn't want to be me. So that's when it started, was the fact that I did not want to be me. I hated me. Like at that time, if I'd look in the mirror and I'd see me, I would just want to see her, because if I could be her, I wouldn't get beaten on. If I could be her, I wouldn't have to be out there in a pig pen all the time, taking care of all that, or the chickens and doing everything. Even to this day, if I go visit my parents, my mom will have a list. And it's all the stuff that's broken around the house that I need to fix. That light bulb or this switch or that. It's electronic or it's digging. I dug them out as huge gardens or a koi pond or like all the time. So I was just labor for them, is how I felt. It's not true. I mean, geez. But if you're that little, you're a second grader, third grader, and all you are is a labor and getting beaten on and always outside doing everything, you look up there and you see your sister wearing nice clothes, clean and pampered, and I'm getting beat on, and I got hand-me-down clothes, and it sucks. It was the worst life growing up for a kid ever, just because of who I was and how they treated me. I didn't want to be me. Hated me. And that's why I isolated. I always lived in the attic or the basement. In one house that they bought, I just made a room in the attic. And another house, I lived down in the basement. The other one, I lived out back in a shed. I never want to be around them.
This
I
is
just-
already starting to
and
make
that's where it
more
starts,
sense.
man. And that's why I say that transgender is a mental health thing. It's not a physical thing. It might not even be a sexual thing, you know. And everybody's making all these accusations for saying this or that. And now if somebody starts talking about a problem, like I'm talking about right now, and then they're automatically, now in these days, automatically made into a transgender person. So I want to be my sister, because I don't want to be me. It's not because I want to be my sister, I want to be female, I just don't want to be me. You know?
Yeah.
And then I graduated from high school, I immediately go to Virginia Military Institute. Why?
Have you ever told
Because I'm
anybody
used to
this stuff?
freaking beaten. I'm used to getting beaten on. That's my life. If I'm not in angst, if I'm not being beat on, or if I'm not, and that's, so, I can't remember who told me. Nick Adams, I think. He said, God, I couldn't stand that guy for the longest time, but it was all a mistake. It was me just projecting myself on him. Jeez, Nick, I'm sorry. But he said to me one time that I wallow in misery. I did 3 platoons with him, I think. We're tight. You know?
It's interesting because
He said I wallow in misery, and I think I really do, because that's where I lived most of my life, was in misery. But I've never talked about this stuff.
I didn't
Because
think
it hurts. It hurts my family. It hurts me. And I was like, I don't want to do that. But if you really want to know what's going on and why all this stuff happened, and all those kids out there that are watching this, if you want to know what's going on, you know, don't let outside influences make you do something else. Don't let outside influences influence your life. It's your life. You know? I let outside influences influence me. I kept looking at everybody else and wanting to be that. You know, and the grass is always greener. And I never knew all the stuff that was going on in her life. She had a lot of stuff going on too. You know? As kids, and how we raise our kids, as parents, we shouldn't be raising kids in our 20s. You know? My parents were like 25 when they had me, or 26. They were young. Like right now, I'm 56 years old. I have a fiance, and she has a 13-year-old. I'm trying really hard. I'm doing really good with that kid. I'm doing everything I can.
Just on a little personal note, you know, it is very rare. My brother met his wife. Okay, so I'm 43. He's 9 years older than me, so he's 52. Well, will be 52. He's 51. He'll be 52 in the next couple of weeks. He met his wife at our church camp that we used to go to once a year. All these Hispanic churches and like half, you know, Hispanic and Caucasian churches would all gather together, and we would meet in the mountains and all that, and have like, you know, a week long. I mean, the camp was awesome. It had some awesome rooms. You know, I had a game room with a, you know, full basketball court. I was master of the foosball, no spinnies, freaking ping pong. I mean, breakfast was lit. Oh my God, they had the greatest breakfast in the world. Any cereal, eggs, sausage. I could go on. That's deviating from the point. But anyways, my brother met his wife. They're the same age when they were both 6 years old. She said, that is going to be the boy that I'm going to marry. Sure enough, she lived in Pueblo, though. He lived here in Denver. They continued seeing each other at church camp. At 13 years old, they started dating. At 18 years old, when she became an adult and graduated, she moved here to Denver with them. But with us, they got married at 19, had their first kid at 20, and they're both married now, and they're both 51 years old. How often do you hear that? I mean, I was with my ex for a total of 7 years, and I'm like, how do you find true love like that, man? That's like, I wish I would have met my ex at, you know, church camp or something, or met my future someone, not ex. See, I'm already putting that on me. Met my future someone at church camp. That was just, I mean, how does that happen nowadays? Very rare. Married at 19, and they're both 51 years old. So, just something special there. Hopefully I'll find something like that, even though I probably won't live for that much longer. I mean, I plan on living, you know, past my 50s and 60s and 70s, but I'm not going to have that long of a marriage. So, anyways, back to this.
To make sure that everything's taken care of and he's good.
Do you talk
Mentally,
to him about this stuff?
physically, all of it. Some of it. I talk to him about mistakes all the time, and when I make a mistake and I tell him, I say, hey, this is what I was doing. Or if I see him doing something, I said, hey, when I was a kid, I would do the same thing. I said, but now I'm a little older, I'm older, and I learned a lot of stuff, and that's not really the right way to do it. How about trying it this way? Can you try it my way for a little bit? And he goes, okay, I'll try it. Yeah, it does work better. I said, okay. I said, I have some other stuff I can tell you too about the same problem, some other angles to attack it from. So it's all about how you see it. It's perspective. And then what kind of toolbox you have. What are the tools in your tool bag? And I just gave you another tool. It's a new tool. Do you want some more? And so I tell them about, this is the problem. Here's one tool. Your tool wasn't working. Here's another one. You want another one? Here's another one. And so I'm trying to have them do it that way. And I make mistakes with them, And the problem is a lot of times I'm a SEAL team chief, and I treat them sometimes as a new guy in a platoon. And I'm a chief. And so we have 10 puppies at home right now. So 10 puppies is a handful. And so in the morning, I get up and I clean out their pen. So I roll all the newspaper with the poop and the pee and everything in it. And then I roll that up and put it in a can. I redo it. I put down water. I do this. And I bring them in. And so I need the food at that time. Now the food comes down. And he was bringing down the food, and he brought down some water, and the water is cold. I want them to have warm water, because warm water for the stomach, I can go into that. It's a nutrition thing. Our stomachs are hot organs. The dogs are hot organs, the stomach. You don't give them cold water. You give them warm water, and it makes their stomach work better. And so if they drink warm water first, a little bit, and then they eat their food, they're going to have better digestion, and then they're going to be able to poop faster to make me clean it up right there, so they're not out there on the floor pooping. So it's all for reasons which I was not explaining to him. And I said, this water's cold, we need warm water. And I handed him back the thing. I said, get warm water. And so when he was going back and he saw, my fiance and was saying, Chris is mad at me, and they started saying stuff, and she was like, well, why? And started talking about, well, and it started spinning up into something that wasn't. And it was like, well, because I didn't communicate good. I was communicating like a chief down to a new guy about the water. I wasn't talking to him like a son. And I wasn't talking to him like, hey, dude, I can go into all the stuff and I can tell you why, but warm water is much better for the dogs. They help them digest, so they eat the food and they poop, so I can clean the poop off so they don't poop on a rug. So there's a reason for all this stuff, and I just need warm water, dude. And that would have been a way better way to do it, but I didn't do that, and then we ended up with an argument. But every time something like that happens, I made a mistake, And now I know that mistake and that I made with him, and I'm going to try to do way better from now on.
Let's go back to
Sorry.
VMI. It's okay. VMI, you said something interesting, that you were seeking what you were used to, and I found that interesting because I did 3.5 years of therapy twice a week after I left the CIA to better myself.
CIA.
And
Tell you some stories about that.
And when I was in there, she had mentioned, my therapist was a female, she had mentioned that human beings will always seek what they know.
Comfortable.
And so,
See comfort.
not just comfort. If you seek, she was talking about, with me, she was talking about post-traumatic stress stuff, and why we always find ourselves in chaos. And if things are good,
Chaos.
somehow
feel
we
right.
convert good, calm, comfort into stress and chaos. And she was just conveying to me, that it doesn't matter if you got it in war. You got it from an abusive childhood. You got it from women who have a history of being abused by men. They will always, you see this pattern in people.
Yeah.
You see,
Well, I didn't even
especially
tell you
in
the
women,
worst thing about that child.
especially, you really see it in abused women.
Yes.
They go from abusive relationship to abusive relationship to abusive relationship. And it seems like that's exactly what you did when you went to VMI.
Yeah. Then I went basically from VMI to the teams. VMI, the first 6 months, is called RAT. You're a rat. And it's tough. VMI is the toughest military school in the country, by far.
I mean, what was your thought
Citadel's pretty
process?
tough. Norwich is pretty tough. They're both tough schools, but VMI was known.
What was your thought process going in there? How did you know?
Discipline.
Okay.
And the fact that I knew all through school, I wanted to go to college. I knew that I wanted to have the knowledge. I knew it was something that would propel me or help me advance in life. You know, education is a gift that you need to keep getting, you know, that you need to keep pursuing. You know,
So I didn't know, and I wanted to look it up. When they keep on mentioning VMI, Virginia Military Institute is a public senior military college in Lexington, Virginia. It was founded in 1839 as America's first state military college and is the oldest public senior military college in the United States. Average cost after aid, $22,000. Graduation rate, 78%. Acceptance rate, 64%. Graduation rate is the first full-time undergraduate students who graduated within 6 years. They were the largest group of students, 94% according to the 2020-2021 college scorecard data. Average annual cost is for the first time full-time undergraduate students receiving federal aid. So this dude went to, wow, an undergraduate program. I mean, this is for senior military. So officers. That's why he made chief. Which makes more sense now because I know they kept on mentioning VMI, and I'm like, the heck is VMI? But now it makes complete sense.
picking up, you know, any book, you know, and the good book is a great place to start. But there's so many, you know, so much knowledge out there. If you're not pursuing that knowledge, then you're stagnant. And I knew this pretty young. You know, I was a big reader, so I didn't do anything in class. I was I was doing stuff in class and getting that paddling all the time. But on the side, I was reading a lot of books. So I was reading a lot of science fiction, but it was science fiction philosophy. Like Heinlein is a philosopher. You know, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress and Stormship Troopers. You know, those two in particular. Stormship Troopers, the movie was terrible, but the book and the actual philosophy for that book is about citizenship. It's about duty. It's about so much in that book. But then you do Moon is a Harsh Mistress. That's all about equality and value and slavery and usage, and then revolution and how to set the revolution up and how to succeed, and the whole philosophy of all that. It's an amazing book. I was reading all those books in high school and junior high and high school, you know, and so I was absorbing all that, and I would hear what they were teaching, and it just wasn't useful to me, you know. I could pass all this tests, and I probably would have been an A student if I put a little bit of effort in it. I would actually purposely fail tests sometimes.
Why?
I would answer all the questions, but I would shift them by one so that all the answers.
You know, that's common too. My niece, very smart, bright girl. She would do the homework. She would sit there and just, you know, get down on it. We would overlook it. It's perfect. But she wouldn't turn it in because for some reason we never understood, but brilliant girl. And not my second niece, who got a full ride basketball scholarship and graduated with a bachelor's and now does some top secret shit. But even I don't know. But yeah, like just very smart and just didn't want to turn in the work. So some people are just naturally gifted at stuff like that.
Answers would be off by one.
And you would do
And it was
that on
big
purpose?
middle finger, yeah. You know, that I would just be like, you guys, you keep paddling me and you keep doing that, but you're teaching me wrong. And I didn't know how to verbalize. I didn't know what to say. But I wouldn't really try very hard on the test. I would just do them real quick. Even in the SEAL teams, I would always do the test. I would do them real fast. I would finish in like 10 minutes and everybody would take an hour. Ask any team guy that was ever in a class with me about how I acted during classes, you know? Who's that one dude? It was a dive soup class, and we were doing over dive physics. And the instructor made a mistake, and it was about partial pressure and some other stuff. And I knew the physics really good of it all, you know. I was already a scuba diver in college. I was a diver before SEALs, and I had a lot of knowledge. And so he said something. And I raised my hand. I was like, well, it's not really right. And I said, and I started talking about what was right. And everybody in class, all the other team guys were pissed that I even did that. I was like, yeah, but if they're teaching wrong stuff, then somebody's gonna die. You know, I'm gonna bring it up. I wanna challenge that guy. And Brad, what the heck is his last name? Brad was in that class with me. If he watches this, he'll know I'm talking about him. To this day, he still holds that against me. He still says, you're always a jerk during class and like raising your hand and like challenging the instructors. I was like, we should. If they're teaching you something wrong in diaphysics, shouldn't you raise your hand and say that's wrong? Saving somebody's life that you just said that.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. So, hey, Brad, I'm just trying to save your life, dude. That's why I raise my hand a lot, and that's why I challenge stuff.
Let's go back to VMI.
Oh,
So you go to VMI. What's your degree in?
electrical engineering.
Electric engineering?
Electrical engineering, yeah.
How did you
There's
become
calculus,
interested in
algebra, differential equations, a lot of, I mean, it was thick.
So
Yeah.
you're good at math.
Yeah.
Really good at
I
math.
can be good at math if I want to be.
What,
I haven't done a lot of math right now, but I'm doing a lot of experiments right now, and I'm doing electricity experiments and electroculture about growing plants with electricity.
Before we get into that, let's stick at VMI. Let's
That's a
stick
good
with
one,
VMI. When
That's why electroengineering is, I'm so glad I did that. But I also goofed off a lot at VMI, and I played lacrosse, and I wasn't, again, not applying myself. The discipline didn't work for me. You know, their discipline didn't
how
work.
were you at building relationships when you left home?
Terrible.
Did you have friends?
I have some really close friends, the ones that get to know me. If you sit with me for long enough, you'll end up probably being a friend if you talk to me enough. But if all you do is to talk to me for one day, you'd be like, yeah, cool person, or kind of a dick, or kind of whatever, just that one meeting. But if just give me a little bit of time, and it was like, hey, but I usually don't give people very much time. I'm very short, you know. And so the folks that I did get tight with, I'm still like best friends with them to this day. One of my VMI classmates, Ron, he was out in California. One of my best friends to this day, you know. And no matter what, Ron would be like, dude, if that's you, like 10 years ago, he called me up. He says, dude, if that's you, you know, it's all right with me, you know, whatever, just as long as you're okay. And that's all it was. Mike Martin, Master Chief, you know, right after I started doing that, he passed away a while ago, you know, rest in peace, brother. But he sent me a note like right away. He's like, Chris, known you for a long time, you know, support you if you're, you know, if you're okay, if you're good, you know, do you need anything? And after I realized, I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I go, all right, I support you. And that's all it was. A lot of team guys. Some that would probably surprise you too.
I know you want to get there, and we will get to that point.
No, but it's important to know that there is a lot of support, and there's a lot of I make friends, and they're deep friends and lasting friendships.
Okay.
But I'm also really hardcore, and so if you ever, like I said, I'm always living in fear of mistakes. If you make that mistake, I'm not going to let you get away with it. If you're in class and you're the instructor and you're the general, you're the admiral, if you make a mistake, admiral, I'm going to call it out. You know, McCraven.
At what point during VMI?
At
what point during VMI did you become interested in the SEAL teams, and how did you even find out about it? Especially
VMI,
back, what was that, the 80s for you?
Yeah, 80s. I was class of 88 at VMI. But I didn't finish. I left. I was in the Ranger platoon, and I was pretty heavy into like the tactics and small unit tactics, and I had my first Ranger handbook was like 1985, and doing patrol leader orders, PLOs, and doing all of it, and I was really good at it, you know, and I was scuba diving too, and then I also was interested in flying, you know, being a pilot. But the biggest thing was like small unit, special operations, you know, that type of thing. Rangers lead the way. Ranger handbook, I mean, it says in there all the, you know, Rogers Rules of Order. It's like, dude, this is warfare. You know, these are the guys. They're professionals. You know, the regular Army, they're not quite as professional. You know, which is a failure that they could all be that professional. But the divisions of labor are wrong. You know, and I can go through some of that too, but it might take too long. But I wanted to do that, and I was also scuba diving. And in 1987, I just saw the cover of a magazine and photo somewhere. In 1987, in All Hands, they had a SEAL Team special edition. The whole thing was SEAL Teams. And man, I was flipping through that and I was going, dude, this is like, it's like the Rangers, but they scuba dive and they free fall parachute. They do all this stuff. And these guys are awesome. I said, I want to do that. And so immediately after I read that magazine from All Hands in 1987, I was like, this is what I want to do. And one of my fraternity brothers, we were both reading a magazine, and Chris Gerard, and he says, yeah, I want to do that too. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we were both going to join it up together. And I ended up being the only one to do it, though. I don't know what happened to him. I lost track of him. But I knew at that point, it was like, these guys do exactly what I want. I pay to go scuba diving. Why would I pay when they could pay me to go scuba diving?
Yeah.
And free fall parachuting and doing everything else. This is awesome.
So did you drop out of VMI?
No, I left in '87, not of my own will.
What
I was
happened
again electrical engineering. I'm glad I did it, but it definitely wasn't for me. It was. I mean, it could be for me now. Now that I realize what I missed out on, I would love to go back and do that. But at the time, I wasn't buckled down enough. I was only in to the Ranger platoon and the lacrosse team. Those are the only two things I had a passion for. And that's the problem is as soon as you get a passion for something, you just start digging in. And then it lets a lot of other stuff slide. And that's what I did. I let my grades slide. And so I ended up having to go make up some time and get my grades back up to stay. And then I got a lacrosse scholarship to a way better school. And then I ended up going there. And I
What
graduated
school?
from another school. Alfred University.
Where's that?
So it's in upstate New York. That's where I am right now. So I ended up going back to Alfred for my master's degree in mental health counseling.
No shit.
Yeah. Well, the journey for me to get out of where I was.
From VMI, you went to mental health counseling.
No. From VMI, I went to political science and philosophy at Alfred.
Okay.
And then at Alfred, I graduated and then went right into SEAL teams. But I just recently went back to college for my graduate degree, my master's degree in mental health counseling.
Okay.
And so there I started really digging into like psychology and the mind and the counseling aspects and coping mechanisms and all the other stuff. The DSM, which is a piece of garbage now, but it's a manual for all of the mental health issues and everything you have going on in your life. You can go through it and you can find out, signs, symptoms, this, and what you can do and all the other stuff. So I was really digging into that and trying to figure myself out. So for 2.5 years, I was at Alfred University going through mental health counseling, trying to figure out what's up with me. Why am I here? What is wrong with me? Why did I do this? And I figured it out.
We'll get there. Let's go to the SEAL teams. So
There's
you
something about
graduate
my
from-
childhood that happened in 10th grade, though, that's probably pretty important,
Well, we better
that I've
talk
only
about
spoken
it.
about once. And so you remember, I was living pretty isolated. And I was isolated from my family and isolated from my culture. We don't have culture as white people. We don't have culture as white people in America.
We don't. How so?
We're not allowed. So I was searching for a culture, and so I ran into this person who was a Native American. And I didn't know that he was basically kicked out of his tribe, but that comes into play. But he was living out there with the English, and it's basically Amish English is how they do it. And I lived in Amish country too, so we're English, and they're the Amish, and they're Native Americans. There's 3 different divisions of people in America, and it's only 3 divisions. Don't start trying to divide it up into all the other ones by color and everything else. It's culturally wise. Well, it's a lot more than that, but they're smaller cultures. They're. So I was there, me with this Indian guy, and going there and just hanging out. And another friend of mine, Nick, we would go there with this guy, and we were learning a lot about this stuff. And we were making beats and doing this stuff and like learning about the culture and really digging it and getting into it. And the guy was living off reservation and in his cabin, and he was a pedo. That's why they kicked him out of the reservation. They didn't want him doing that with their kids on their reservation. Let him go do it with the English. They didn't care. So I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know what sex was. I was a virgin until I was like 22 years old, 21 or 22, 23. I'd have to really think about it to actually put a date on it. But I was a virgin. You know, I was scared of all this stuff. I was very confused because of what was going on in my own head too. All that fear. And so I started finding some culture. I started finding something I could sink my teeth into and be like, this means something. You know, the Great Spirit and the way you take care of the earth and all the other amazing things about the Native American culture. You know, the people that were here before them is even more wild, you know, which I appreciate more the people that were here before them. It's amazing, some of the stuff. But so I was there with him, and for whatever reason, I was sitting there chopping wood, and Nick left. And I almost didn't remember a lot of this stuff until like really recently, and I was talking to another guy, and something happened to him really similar when he was a kid, and he was telling me about it, and then it all started coming back, and I was like, oh yeah. So I was chopping wood and shirt off in 11th grade or whatever, and Nick is gone, so it's just me, and it starts getting late, and I said, hey, I gotta go, and jump on my motorcycle and ride back home. And she goes, hey, you're all sweaty and all, you know, just, hey, jump in the shower and take a shower. And I was like, stupid kid. And so I was like, yeah, might as well. Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Then I don't do it when I get home at like midnight or whatever time. So it wasn't that late. It was probably like 8 or 9. But so I'm in the shower. A freaking guy comes in there with a big wood, and I start like backing away, and I'm like, whoa, and I'm freaking out, and I fall through the shower curtain and scrambling away, and I'm able to scramble away. I got away, fought him off, pushed it, got out, you know, luckily, but it was enough. It was like, it affected me a lot. Yeah. You know, so I was already afraid of all this stuff, and I already had a lot of stuff going on with me, and then that happened, and so that pretty much shut down all of it. You know, it's
holy shit, man.
And all those people on that tribe, and they all knew it. And if any of them think about the 80s, and they think about that guy, Patches, and they're all gonna know, and every one of them people living on that reservation know, they set us all up. All those English kids that were living out there near him, they knew it.
Damn.
You know? I got away, but there's a lot of people that don't, you know? And it affects you.
And you
It affected me greatly. And that's why these drag queens right now, they're dancing for all these kids, and they're half naked and doing all this sexualization in front of these kids. That's why I'm so adamant about these drag queens right now, that they're out there dancing for these kids and they're doing all this sexual stuff. That's pretty much what happened to me when he did that. You know, it didn't go the full thing, you know, luckily, but it was enough. So it's very, very similar to what these drag queens are doing. And I'll tell you what he did definitely affected me. And it's not right. You know, kids are very vulnerable, and kids are very influenceable, groomable, or whatever word you want to talk about. If you're sexualizing kids, you know what you're doing, and you know it's wrong, and you know you're harming them kids. And that's why when I'm talking about this stuff, everybody's all mad at me and saying that I hate drag queens, and I never even thought about drag queens. I used to have some drag queens that I might have called friends, that I knew and I was acquaintances with at least. And they were pretty good people. They're nice, you know? But I don't have anything against drag queens. But the second they started being naked in front of kids or doing sexual stuff in front of kids, and it's all sexual. Burlesque is sexual. Do burlesque dancers dance in front of kids? No. Pole dancing is sexual. Do pole dancers dance in front of kids? No. So why do we allow drag queens to do the same thing in front of kids? That's what I'm talking about. If they didn't do that, I'd be like, yeah, do whatever you want. You're in an adult theme area. You're at a bar. It's adult entertainment. If you were doing that, I'd give you a high five, whatever. You know? But as soon as you started doing that in front of the kids, and I saw it, and I was like, this is wrong. And I start calling it out. It's exactly what happened to me, and it affects every one of them kids. And if you're a parent, bring your kid to these drag shows. You're messing your kids up. Whether you think you're being all compassionate to the drag queens, compassionate to the gay community, or whatever you think you're doing. Because they're people too, and we should just support them. Well, don't bring your kids. If you want to give that drag queen dollar bills, you go there and give as many dollars as you want. But don't give dollar bills to your kids and have your kids stuffing dollar bills in somebody's underwear. Are you kidding me? This is why I'm speaking so much. So a little while ago, I did start speaking out. And I went on Robbie Starbuck, and I went on a couple, not very much. This is all I'm fighting against. Because everybody else can take care of themselves. If you're an adult and you want to get surgeries and you want to do stuff, you're an adult. Go for it. But you're doing this with kids right now. And that's when I wear this purple shirt on every show. I had to remove everything and make myself in the most plain, maybe even dirty looking, so that you don't even have an inclination that I would ever do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they need to stop. And if they stopped right now, all the pressure on that entire community it would be like a pressure valve, be turned off. And Robbie Starbuck and me and everyone else is speaking out against the rainbow community right now because of what they're doing. And I blame the whole community. The whole rainbow community is at blame right now because they're allowing it. If all those people, if every gay person, every lesbian, and the transgender people who are disagreeing with the stuff that they're doing to kids, if they would all just say, stop, it would stop. And then you would see everybody in the world. They blame the Christians too, and I don't understand that. The Christians only want the best for them. The Christians only want the best for those kids. If they stopped right now, they would see that the whole pressure valve would release, and it would be like, yeah, we don't care. You have your bars, you have your adult entertainment, go for it, man. We don't care what you're doing. As a Christian, I don't care what they're doing. That's you. If that's what you want to do, you can go for it. But again, leave me alone. If I wake up every morning and I read the Bible for an hour, let me do it. It doesn't do anything to you. If I go to a coffee shop and have a Bible with me and I'm reading my Bible in a coffee shop, why do you have to tease me? I'm not doing anything to anybody.
The first time I recorded this, like I said, I had my big mug in the way. I had it all the way down to here. Completely forgot to, size it back up. But I went on a really bad rant. And part of me felt guilty. But when you find something that makes you happy, you kind of sound like he does. Holding Christians in such high esteem. And I completely get it. I completely understand it. His heart is in the right place, and he is absolutely right. You should not be subjecting children to that kind of shit whatsoever. I don't care if you're, full-blown entrenched in the LGBTQ community. I have nothing against you guys whatsoever. Do you? That's fine. I could have my personal opinions about it just like you could have your personal opinions about me. That's fine. I'm not saying anything hateful. I'm not saying anything, belittling. I'm not condemning your lifestyle. I'm not sitting there on a perch saying, oh, you're going to go to hell because the Bible says this, the Bible says that. And neither is he. But one thing that I had a problem with him saying is, that, all Christian people are good. And I had really, really went off because I chose the church, unfortunately, that I decided to go to with my ex. All of a sudden, we start finding out that they have all these different little groups and all that, and they're not asking for money. This is one of those, the good aspect of the church were two things. I have lost a lot of people in my life in the past, 10 years. I must have lost anywhere from 14 to 20 some family members on my dad's side of the family. And that family was flourishing on my dad's side. And I lost my dad, and oh my God, anybody I can think of, I pretty much lost. I have but a few cousins left, one uncle out of 6 or 7, and 2 aunts out of, well, there wasn't actually very many aunts. So out of 5. But the other one was married, and she was like a second mother to me. But anyways, the point that I was getting to is this. There's all these programs within the church, like, couples coffee. And then that was with the guy who I ended up having me and my ex-wife going to see, in counseling, because he was actually a verified counselor, and this was just something he was doing with the church with him and his wife. And then we found it was a corny name, iMarriage, like after iPhone and iPad and iWatch and all that shit. It was iMarriage, but it was couples like our age. So at the time, this was like, what, 10 years ago or so. So, we were like 33, 34. And so we got to meet a lot of couples, our age. One of them was a former NFL football player who had to retire early because he got hurt. Good friend that I had made, well, thought, I had made. He was a college pitcher. We had a softball team. The other one was a gunsmith. And this dude had a freaking arsenal. I've never seen one person own so many guns, from some badass assault rifles to any handgun you could think of. I mean, this dude was just packed. But anyways, when I got a divorce, and this is where I really went off yesterday, and I'm going to try to kind of do a little bit more of a PG-13 on the verge of rated R, but fuck them all. Not the friends, but all the people who claim to be like, your like in the iMarriage class. They wanted a group, one couple with one of the, I guess you would say, like, teachers that were, talking about the marriage life, and they've been married for a while, have kids, and went off to college, blah blah blah. And we had like the coolest, what I thought was the coolest people. And in fact, my stepfather had this really, really cool sword that he had given me. And this guy was really, really into swords. And, they were, upper middle class. And, just out of pure, respect for them, I had given him this sword, and he was like all happy and everything. And I just like giving people stuff. You could ask people who have been here on my channel for a little bit. I've given them a lot of giveaway gifts. But I just like giving people stuff. It makes me happy when I could give people things. But when my divorce occurred and everything, not one of those motherfuckers reached out to me and said a goddamn word. And it pissed me off so fucking bad, because my ex was so goddamn manipulative that people could see right through it, to where I had character, witnesses that wanted to go to court when we were arguing over my daughter on, who's going to get to spend more time with her and everything. And, not a single one of those fucking assholes stepped up. And I thought to myself, you guys are so goddamn Christianly, but yet here you are, fucking, hiding behind, the church, like, oh, that's really not our business. Well, fuck, you made it your business for like the 3-4 years that I was there. Constantly having to go to your home, constantly having to attend dinners that I didn't want to attend, constantly having to go to these getaways and retreats and shit like that. But when it came down to it, you didn't practice what you fucking preached. And I mean, I really wanted to go off on each and every one of them. The only cool one was like the lead main pastor. I didn't even knew that he knew of us. And when my stepfather died, he reached out and like offered his condolences, and everything, and like if there's anything, they could do for us. And then all of a sudden, he had some of the parishioners bring in, like, little things that that people might overlook, like, when you're going through grief and all that, you're not really thinking about, I'm not gonna go grocery shop, and I might not do this, I might not do that, and this was an upper class church. They would have people come and bring us freaking groceries, bring us, takeout fruit from like PF Chang's, and like, all these like just real down to earth, nice, kind-hearted people. But it was none of the people that were in these classes that they're trying to teach these young married couples how to have a wonderful marriage, this and that. Well, I know of 4 other couples in there that got divorced, and not a single one of those fucking assholes stepped up and said shit. So then it didn't dawn on me until like 4 years later that the psychology report that we had from going to this, counseling, or the counseling report that we had, with all this shit that my ex was saying, that I had on hand, and this asshole never even like reached out and reminded me like, hey, if this, you know, helps you with the custody of your daughter, you know, I could send it your way. This asshole didn't say shit, and he knew that he could have. He's only been doing this for 20, 30 years. I was so fucking pissed. So when this guy, you know, when he's talking about the church, I know that right now his church is probably treating him great, and I hope they continue doing that, and I hope he continues to find God, and it helps, you know, him find peace. But not everybody who's Christian is, you know, is right, is, you know, kind, is there. You know, there's a lot of these assholes who don't practice what they preach, and I found a good 75% of assholes in this fucking church that I decided to go through right up the road from here about 5 miles, where I almost let it slip, but where, you know, it was just fucked up. I really looked at it like, and mind you, I've told the story 1,000 times, how I went to an all-white, you know, private school. That was a Christian school. That's the first time where I knew what prejudice was, what racism was. And this was told to me by my student counselor, my like first day there, before school even started, when they're using me for football. Like, you might face some type of, you know, prejudice, not only from, you know, school kids, but maybe even faculty as well. And I'm like, okay, you know, I really didn't know what that was, because I was always in, you know, Denver public schools, and it's just vastly diverse. You know, I had more black friends, more Hispanic friends, more, you know, other types of, you know, friends than I ever did, you know, white friends. And then I go to this all white school, and it's like, it was a culture shock for me. I'm like, holy fuck, man, why do they, you know, they act way different. And then by the time I left, everybody's like, dude, you sound like a white guy, you act like a white guy, you play the guitar like a white dude. Even though a lot of Hispanics play guitar, but I played electric guitar. They're like, and you love, like, you know, white music, rock, alternative rock, punk, and all that. I'm like, hey, you are what you're around, right? But I treat everybody with the same amount of respect. Not this church, and not all Christians are, as he's putting it. This is the only time I'm going to interject this very strong opinion that, you know, things could have been a lot different for the outcome of me having a lot more time with my daughter if these fucking so-called Christians would have stepped up and said, you know, what they had experienced, what they had written down, what they had went through with us. And not one of those assholes did that. So that's the most animated I've ever been about any of these things. And it was just, yeah, it was fucked up. It was bullshit. So excuse my language. I'm just saying, don't fall into that, to where you think that all Christians are going to be kind to you and treat you, because a lot of those motherfuckers will just stab you in the back. And I'm Christian, but I'm not going to do that to somebody. That's fucked up. You know, when somebody does it to you and you know it's mad, you know it's bad, you're not going to do it to somebody if you're a really good, kind, caring person. Never do that to somebody. So I'm glad to wherever he's going and he's finding peace and happiness. I hope that continues for him, for his well-being, for everything. You know, I may not have any TBI or any PTSD, other than the fact that I wish I had more time with my daughter. Other than that, you know, I haven't been through what he has, but I just hope that that continues for him, that he continues to find happiness.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Why are they attacking? It's like goldenrod. If you have hay fever, everybody blames goldenrod. Goldenrod is actually antihistamine. But the goldenrod is sitting there real bright. And it's sitting there super bright yellow flowers and all this stuff. And if you have hay fever, you're sneezing, all you see is that goldenrod blowing this little pollen all over the place. The goldenrod is trying to heal you up. Did you know that? Christians are goldenrod. The Christians are just there, bright and shiny, and just trying to heal you. But we're not sitting there knocking on your doors. We're not sitting there, well, some of them do, but they aren't Christians. But we don't really do anything. We're just sitting there real bright, and we're saying, we have a way to help you out if you want it, but you have to take it. We're not going to give it to you. We're here. But everybody hates goldenrod so much because they think it's causing hay fever. Everybody hates the Christians so much because they think the Christians are causing the hate. Christians don't cause hate. We're setting an example that now you're projecting on us. Your hate is projected on all them Christians. And a lot of it's your own self-hate. Do you know how many Christians are killed per year?
No.
Over 5,000. Worldwide, over 5,000 Christians are killed per year because of their belief, because they have a Bible, because they believe in a moral code, because they believe there is something bigger than us.
Yeah.
And we believe that I am created in the image of God. And we are. Our DNA code is the image of God. Our DNA code is a code written by somebody. And you can take all those evolution people, you can take all those atheists, take everybody else, and they can't figure that out. And you ask them. And I can study with like Descartes, who is a great causal theory guy. And you study that, and you talk about first cause. And that's where they always get stuck. So who wrote the code? So the Christians, you need to stop thinking the Christians are causing all these problems. Most of the problems are being projected on the Christians. It's actually somebody else bringing that in persecution. So when I say how many Christians are killed per year is over 5,000 worldwide. Do you know how many transgender people are killed worldwide every year?
I don't.
It's like 300 and something. In America, it's like 60, 65. Now, I'm not putting those numbers out that they're meaningless. Every one of those numbers is a name. Every one of them numbers is a person, is a human that is worthy, is a human that I am grateful for that it had a life, and I'm very sorrowful that they're gone right now because they had a life and they had things to offer. And I'm really upset that those people were killed because they were killed for really bad reasons. The transgender people are being killed for really terrible reasons. Those Christians are being killed for really terrible reasons. Both groups are being killed for terrible reasons. But the thing that I ask you right now is, who does our government care about? Who does the world care about right now? They care about those 300 transgender people. And they're making laws and they're doing everything they can to save those 300. And they don't care about those 5,000. Now, how many Muslims are killed per year worldwide for their religion?
A lot.
In the Quran, Jesus, his name is mentioned more than Muhammad's. I think. I know Jesus' name is mentioned a lot.
How many Muslims are killed
but Jesus'
every year?
name is in the Quran a lot.
Because of their religion.
I don't know. But I
Is
know
there a
that
lot?
if you have a belief, I'm sure it's a lot.
Who would be doing that?
Probably some people that think they're Christians, or maybe some people that think they're Jews. It's a Hegelian dialectic. It's a Hegel, a philosopher. He had this theory that the only way society can advance is through a dichotomy. It has to be through two warring factions fighting to make everything advance to something else. And then when it's something else, you have to create something else to fight that new something else to create something else. And that was the whole theory. And that's a theory behind like critical race theory and a whole bunch of stuff. And there's so much. I mean, I'm now thinking about that, and I could go into a lot deep that. But the problem is right now is that we always try as human beings, because we're so convinced that it has to be two, and they have to be warring. Same thing like Jesus and Satan, or God and Satan, or Lucifer, and whoever you want to say. We think that it has to be good and bad, good and evil. It has to be, God and Satan, and it has to be this and that to do this. It's Joaquin and Boaz, those are the two pillars in Solomon's temple that the Masons believe in, and they always do that. And they make it black and white, and it has to be that dialectic to join into the one in the middle. And that's what they're doing right now with white and black people. They're making a racial thing. They're trying to make it into that too, a dialectic to war. But that's not the right dialectic. It should have been rich and poor. That's way more accurate. But nobody sees it that way. When you have billionaires meeting in their billionaire clubs, do you think when a black billionaire is sitting there hanging out with a white billionaire, do you think they talk about race?
No.
Never. When I was poor and I was growing up, we had a lot of, my dad was a football player too, so we were always exposed to a lot of black people, because that's the culture of football. It's very mixed up, and I don't care. When you're on that football team, do you care what color your lineman is, or your quarterback, or anybody else on there? You're a team. You just play as a team.
I mean,
This
they're
whole thing is
definitely
just so broken.
doing a division.
We're a broken
because
society right now, and I help break it.
I mean, just everything is coming down to race. Everything is,
Yeah.
you're a racist.
It's wrong.
Just this week in Memphis, there was a African American, I think he was 20 something years old, was beat to death by 4 African
Have you ever
American
been to
police
Africa?
officers. And they're saying that the 4 African American police officers were motivated by white supremacists.
Yeah.
That they are white supremacists. Now, how are 4 African American police officers white supremacists?
Well, how does a president or,
And the sad thing, Chris, is that, and this is just my perspective, and I hope I'm wrong, but it seems like the majority of the U.S. population that sees this actually believes
believe it.
that 4 African Americans are white supremacists.
Yeah.
They actually believe that.
Yeah. Well, when a
They
kid
will
up in-
believe anything that comes out of CNN, Fox
Yeah.
News, MSNBC, whatever news channel
Yeah.
is your cup of tea.
That's the 2, Fox and
They're
CNN.
going to believe
Yeah.
anything. If Tucker Carlson said it,
all those people.
it's got to
believe
be true, right?
If
It
Anderson Cooper
has to
said
be
it-
true. You know?
If Anderson Cooper says it, it's true for those people. If
Yeah.
Tucker says it, it's true for those people.
Yep.
And they're all warring.
It's
That's the
pathetic
two.
because nobody's looking at all the different perspectives.
No.
And if you don't think like me, then I fucking hate you.
Yep. You nailed all of it. I look at all of it. Even on my social media account, I have liberal account and I have my conservative account.
I didn't know you had 2 accounts.
I have way more than 2 accounts. but the echo chambers, if you enter into echo chambers, is probably the perfect way to say it.
Yeah, it
is
is.
that one of my accounts is definitely an echo chamber, and I've changed it a lot too because I had to because it was way too far. My Valor for Us social media accounts. So for that 10 years when I was doing a lot of the speaking out and talking about stuff, there was a lot of things in there where I was way too over into that cultural Marxist type of way of thinking, victim mentality and everything else. I was in there on that social media platform, and it's not me. And so I have been being a little bit more harsh on that account just to try to bring it into a more of a generalized middle of the road echo chamber, so I can get a little bit of both sides into it. And right now I'm pretty much there, and so I don't really do very much one way or the other. I do speak out still on drag queens and some of my other stuff, but for that account now, the Valor for Us account, is kind of middle, but I still bash Biden and the administration, just like I bash Trump and his administration. Just like I said, if the admiral made a mistake, I'm going to call it out. When Trump did stuff, I would call it out. When Biden does stuff, I'm going to call it out. I'm not either one. I'm an independent, and I'm proud to be an independent because I'm not going to let you talk me into who to vote for. Those political parties are PACs. They're not political parties. They're not political at all.
Well, that's
They're action
exactly.
committees.
An echo chamber is absolutely the correct terminology.
Yeah.
Because let's look at it like this. What was it? Maybe 4 or 5 months ago, Kanye West, right? It was
Yeah.
all over the news.
Yeah.
Now they're saying he's a
about
white
Jews and
supremacist,
stuff?
or I don't know. I
It was
don't.
mostly about Jews,
I don't
but he
watch.
wasn't talking about Jews. He wasn't even talking about Jewish or Jewish
Well, I
religion.
think what the point I'm trying to make is that this is the kind of shit that I've seen Americans fall into time and time and time again. Let's talk about the beginning of COVID. When all these celebrities were speaking up about the vaccine and the mask mandates, and they wanted everybody to wear the masks, and they wanted everybody to do the vaccination, and the conservative side of the house was saying, I don't give a shit. I don't care what you have to say. You're a celebrity. You're a musician, or you're a football player, or you're a basketball player, or you're an MLB player. I don't care what you have to say. Get on the field and run the fucking ball, or get on the field and pitch strikeouts. Get on the stage and entertain me.
Yeah.
I don't care what you have to say about about anything with politics, COVID. Are you a doctor? No. But the very minute that
Dr.
one of them
Malone.
switches sides and they speak out against the vaccine or against the mask mandate, or as long as it falls in line with what you believe, then all of a sudden it's okay.
Yep.
Now we want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And then we saw it again with Kanye West. And you know, I'm middle of the road too. I lean more on the conservative side. That's how I grew up. I have conservative values, but I am middle of the road. And so I'm harder on conservatives than I am on liberals.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, you know, that's where a lot of my values lie. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then I saw this stuff with Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what have we heard ever since the first presidential debate? Which actually there was only one, I think, last time. But it was Joe Biden his mental state is off. He's not capable of being the president because of his mental state. There's nothing going on upstairs. He's got dementia.
Mm-hmm.
He's too old. He can't think. He's mentally
That was one whole side
slowing
saying
down.
that, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's lost his mind. Isn't Kanye West like a diagnosed schizophrenic?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I may be off.
Wow.
I may be off, but he definitely, I know for a fact he's talked about his bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Which would be, right?
Yeah. So
Right?
bipolar, I can probably believe.
But we can't listen. We're going to go off and throw a shit fit about Joe Biden and how nobody should listen to him. And I agree with him.
Yeah.
I agree with him. I do think that he's mentally off. But then when Kanye West comes around, who's
diagnosed?
not diagnosed schizophrenic, diagnosed bipolar,
Yeah.
another mental disorder.
Yeah.
We're just gonna eat every fucking word that comes out of that man's mouth because it falls in line with exactly what the fuck we say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see this shit, man, and that's just a couple of examples, but I see this stuff and I'm like, this isn't my fucking party, man.
Yeah.
I'm not. You see all these people, you know.
Well,
These
here's the
are
funny-
all a bunch of hypocrites.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Every fucking
1000%.
one of them.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Tucker Carlson, when I was on his show the other day, I had a whole bunch of them on that side, the CNN group, who were just mad at me for doing that. And I said, well, did you hear what I said? He said, no, I don't listen to that. I said, well, if you heard what I said, you'd probably understand why I went on there. And I said, just listen to it. I said, I went on there basically to say that I don't want to do this anymore. I basically talked about CNN and Fox, and I said, I don't want to be here because everything I say on here is going to be a lie. He said, what does that mean? I said, if you watch anything that I did on CNN, you know, for whatever years past, it's all lies. I said, it's not me lying. It's the fact that they can edit and they can do whatever they want with it. They can build narratives out of whatever. Just like this show right here. If somebody only listens to a snippet that you put out there, depending on what snippet you put, you could paint me as an evil, bad person. Or you could paint me as a really good person. Or you could paint me as one of the coolest SEALs that ever lived. Or the biggest jerk SEAL that ever lived. And that's what I'm saying is that when you do these things on CNN or Fox or wherever you're going, I don't want to do this anymore because I don't believe what you guys are peddling on either side. I said, but I do get a kick out of Tucker because he has pretty good humor and he does come up with some good points sometimes to make me think. Now, I don't believe what he says just because he says it. He makes me think about some stuff. And then I have to go research and I figure some stuff out and I find out my own. And that's what everybody should be doing. But nobody does that because we live in like this McDonald's fast food society that if I can get that Big Mac for $1, then I'm going to eat that Big Mac. That's all I need. Says, yeah, but it's not good for you. There's so much stuff in that thing that's really hurting you that you really need to figure out. If you like the Big Macs, figure out why you like it. Okay, I like the salad. I like that $1,000 Island dressing you put on there. I like this. I like that. Okay, well, go make it yourself and you'll make it better because you can use the organic or natural stuff you got from your farmer. It'll be a lot better for you.
No, it's just.
But we just want it handed. We want it easy.
I think
Nobody wants to dig.
the sad thing is you cannot fix stupidity.
Nope.
And that's what's happening here.
Cognitive dissonance is probably exactly what it is. Is that they've been in echo chambers for so long, that's all they have. Well, we did it as a society, you know. For how many, even when you're in grade school, and they give you the globe, or they talk about the man on the moon, all the stuff they teach you in grade school about stuff that I could challenge right now. You know, they teach us a lot of stuff that we hear over and over and over again that we take it for granted. That's what happened. When did the Chinese land on the moon?
I have no idea.
2013. Did you ever see the video?
No.
So the Chinese landed on the moon in 2013,
You like
and they released a video for it. But pretty quick, that video was taken down, and they said, no, it's just a joke, because it was so bad. It was so fake. Because they didn't have, Kubrick,
Well, that's another
You
discussion.
need a better production staff and better cameras if you guys want to fake this,
Yeah. That's another discussion. But do you want to dig into your career as a SEAL?
Yeah. I mean, we just did a lot of other stuff. And I don't
We
know.
did. Let's take a break and then let's get back on track. We'll go over your SEAL career. This episode of the Sean Ryan Show or .com. Chris, we're back from the break, and I want to dive into your SEAL career because you've had a very unique and you've had a very unique, successful career as a SEAL, and it's like nothing that I've heard before. I don't know everything about it, but I know you've been on some fascinating projects. You've seen a lot of combat, and I want to show how accomplished you are as a SEAL and as a human to the community. So
I'm supposed to talk about all the stuff I don't talk about?
you're supposed to talk about all the stuff that you don't talk about. Are you good with that?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
So let's go back to, you went from VMI to Alfred, and then you joined the Navy.
Yeah. So Desert Storm, it was kicking off. And just like, anybody who's a, patriot, when to raise their hand because the war is going on. So I raised my hand and I went to war. I joined. And when I joined, I went right into boot camp. I went into the recruiting office. And I told him, I said, hey, this is going on and I want to join and I want to be part of it. And I want to go into SEALs. And it was a Navy recruiter. And he was like, well, nobody really makes it through that. And there's a lot of other things you can do. And I was like, no, I'm not making it. It's fine. And I said, how do I do it? And he says, well, go to boot camp. And in that boot camp, you can raise your hand. That was the time period I joined. And they'll give you a test at boot camp. And if you pass that test, then they'll give you orders that you can go. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. He said, all right, sign up. So I signed up like right then, and I shipped out like 2 or 3 weeks later. And so I went to boot camp. And I was an RCPO, which is just like the leader of your boot camp class. They used to always kid around and call me RCPO. Because during boot camp, it was like the worst training I've ever been through. It was just a big waste of time for me.
This episode, folk, great for. I wish you don't. H1.
Clean stuff up and do that, or because I've already been through VMI, right? So I don't need to learn how to fold my clothes and clean stuff up and do that, or follow orders or march or any of it. It's a huge waste of time. So as I was there as the RCPO and I was leading a lot of stuff, and I knew that I could lead, and I knew I could do all the stuff. The company commanders, the guys that were running the boot camp, they kind of started laxing off on me a little bit, and they started like letting me do stuff. And so I told them, I said, hey, you guys are having us march, and sometimes we run and we do little workouts, but I'm getting really bad out of shape, and this is just too long for me. I got to work out. And so they said, okay. They said, we'll have blocks of time, and you can do whatever you need to do. And so I had all my own time, and I was doing push-ups, sit-ups, and working out, And it was pretty cool. So that's why they started making jokes in RCPO, because it was like I was special. I could do my own workouts. I said, well, any one of y'all that want to do it with me, you can. And nobody wanted to, because it was hard, And so I left boot camp like that. And I went in there as an E3 because I had college degree. And so I was already starting out as an E3.
Okay.
And I enlisted on purpose because I didn't want to be an officer. And because I also was studying a lot of that. And I didn't see the officer route as something I wanted to do. Because I still was, I'm a digger,
Yeah.
I work on all my own Harleys and I do mechanic stuff. And I worked on a farm, and it's like, I'm not going to sit there in an office and push paper and just tell everybody what to do. I'm going to do it. And so I enlisted. So I'm an E3. So I go to Buds. in buds, I think I made E4 during third phase. I took the test during third phase. I mean, it was fast. Everything was so quick.
Yeah.
And so I made the next rank. And I think it was right then. Did I make E4 in buds? It was like really quick after. It was really fast. Now I'm thinking back 30 years now, and I think about this stuff. But I did make E4 really fast. I went up ranks really quick. The testing, because I can take tests, I can pass tests. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've been
And that's
saying
what it
that the
was.
whole
It was
interview.
like, I could just take the test and I'd get the highest grade and I'd have, I'd ace it, So I made rank really quick in the military. So I graduated, I got in the butt, I'm in buds and I'm kicking butt. And I remember the 4 mile run. Do you remember your time in the 4 mile runs? In
I
sand
think it
with
was like
boots on?
24 minutes.
Yeah, I was 24 minutes too. So I was running in 6-minute miles in the sand with boots on. I was pretty quick. And in the Osgo course, I was doing that really quick too. I think it was like 6 minutes or something. And then the swimming, I was the fastest swimmer. Me and my swim buddy.
No shit.
Plumber. So I was crushing everything. And so as far as graduating number one, I graduated number one.
You were
in
the
this
honor
event.
man?
That's
Did they have
debatable.
that then?
They did, but they changed some of the stuff the way they did it, and the honor man wasn't fully based on your performance for all that. They took the shooting section that we did on third phase out in the island, and they made that like 50% of your honor man grade, and then everything else was the other 50. And so if it was, they did it the old ways or the new ways now, because I think they found out there was a mistake, is you can't do that. Because the guns we're shooting out there, it's guns that you get out of the armory. And whatever I was doing, I'm a good shooter. And I was just shooting like crap. And I was like, it's the gun. And they would always yell at me that it's not the gun. And then I'd be like, I'm a good shooter. And this thing is it's a worn barrel. This is just a crap gun, And it's totally plausible because those guns they're just beater buds guns, They're not good guns. And so there was this officer who was crap athlete that ended up shooting like super expert. The guy was a great shot. And I give it to him that the dude was an expert shooter, And mine was like, it was a little lower. And so they said, well, that's the honor man because he's the best shooter. And what are SEALs? We got to shoot. That's what we do. So he's the honor man. And it was because I was always calling him out and raising my hand and saying, that's bullshit, not. And I was not easy to get along with. They didn't want me to be the honor man.
Yeah.
But I was number one enlisted, so they gave me my choice of orders. So right out the gate, I had my first choice, SEAL Team 1.
Why did you pick one?
It was the hardest team.
What do you mean?
Perception. Perception was Team 1 and Team 2 were the toughest teams. I lived in Virginia. I know all that stuff. I didn't really want to be in Virginia. I wanted to stay in California because I don't know anything about it. And it was just something different, So I could pick Team 1 or Team 2 is what I wanted, was one of those two teams. Because they were the strictest, they were the hardest, they were the ones that were the historical legacy teams. And they were hardcore, those two teams, compared to all the other teams.
I mean, it makes sense, you pick VMI
Yeah.
because the beating.
It kind of
You go to
follows
SEAL teams,
suit. And until just
then you go to
now,
the
I never
hardest team.
realized that. Until just now, I never realized that.
Did you
Yeah.
tell just now in this moment?
When I'm sitting there looking at it, I go, and then when Nick was telling me that I wallow in misery, it's like, well, what's the toughest one? And so I
Yeah.
went to faculty's team, Master Chief Faculty, and he was tough, man. He would Tony Leaner was wearing a ball cap and a pair of sunglasses one time, and he got in trouble for wearing a ball cap. It was like, if you don't do it the team way and faculty's way and right by the book, you're gonna get lit up. Especially as a new guy, they were strict. That's the 90s. 1990s SEAL teams are way different than we have now. The 1990s teams are different than the 2000 teams even. When we started going to war, everything started really changing. When I was at Team 1, we used to go to DRMO, where all the old equipment was given at Camp Pendleton for the Marine Corps. So the SEAL teams in the 90s, we were getting the old Marine Corps throwaway equipment. And we would take that equipment into the parachute loft and have those guys sew it all up. The guys that sew the parachutes. And I'm explaining a little bit for the civilians out there that don't know what a parachute loft is. But basically, there's a bunch of guys in there that sew the parachutes and fix the parachutes with these big machines. So we would take all the old equipment, this LBEs and this straps and harnesses and all the stuff from the Marines. we'd bring this big pile of stuff into the parachute loft, and we'd explain to the rigger what we wanted, what to carry and how it would look and how it would fit, and it was all custom built to us. This is before London Bridge. This is before all of the fancy equipment.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. It's close to about an hour in. I know he kind of seems like he's all over the place, but again, it's for good reason, and it ends up being just, like I said, this whole interview is just mind-boggling, crazy. It's like, damn, when is he going to get to the point? Because he's all over the place. Like I said, even I, and I apologize to my viewers if my language offends you, but like I said, it was just something personal, something like he went through, and something that I just felt like, it's always needed to be said, because Christian, Muslim, freaking Jewish, whatever, it doesn't matter who you are. That doesn't define you as a good person. Your personality, your morals, what you believe is fine. You may come up to somebody and be like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. It doesn't mean that you're a good person. You could be the fakest, look at these, televangelical, preachers who making millions, private jets. I mean, come on. Really? There's people freaking getting kicked out of their homes. Your permissioners, people that are starving, your permissioners. You helping them, or you coming out with, your 4th edition, 12 time over, redo on your book? I just don't get it. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying anybody could be a good person, from an atheist to whomever. So, anyways, you'll definitely get something out of this interview the more and more you listen to it. But like I said, I know right now he kind of seems all over the place, but it's a good interview. So, hope you guys are enjoying what you hear so far. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. For those of you out on the East Coast, I know it's a little late, so if you're up watching this, I appreciate it. If not, I hope you get a chance to watch it sometime soon. So, until then, you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. I hope your day at work goes well. Be positive, be happy. Treat others right. You never know what the hell somebody's going through. So, until then, I'm out. Have a good one.